Hi, folks.
Good morning or afternoon
Now it's morning.
for you.
I know it's morning for you for another 30 seconds.
Minute.
Oh. Can you folks see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, because I got a pop-up that said that Zoom crashed, but apparently it didn't, or it's one of these slow motion crashes. Oh. Give it a few minutes for some folks to join and get started.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello. All right, screen sharing is not going to happen today. Zoom is just not having it.
Doesn't like you today.
Zoom was literally crashing every 8 minutes during last hour's call.
Do you want me to share it?
I don't have any slides, so it's just gonna be discussion, so we can just chat. So we'll give it like one more minute and then we'll get going. There is a doc that should be listed in the invite. If you want to there and add yourself, you're welcome. If there are things that you want to talk about, you can do that. I should create a space for this meeting. Done. Hey, Anna.
Nick and the team. I'm glad to join this meeting finally.
Awesome. Okay, so welcome everyone to the June 7th AO public meeting. I will be your host. Happy to, the purpose of this forum is to give anyone the opportunity to ask, inquire, chat, raise concerns, whatever, with the AO team and what we're doing and how we're doing it and what we could be doing better and all of that. So I have a couple updates from the past month. Nothing, well, some of it's interesting. Actually, sorry, all of it's interesting. Some of it's new. So I'll just go through a couple of these. Stop me if you have questions, and I'm hoping to take most of this time for just kind of open discussion. So early in May, we announced at OpenSSF Day that we had received an additional tranche of funding from Microsoft and Google. Thank you to Microsoft and Google. This kind of hydrates us back to the point that we can, we feel good about this year into 2024 from a funding perspective. So we're able to make additional investments in key critical open source projects. So we've had discussions. I believe last time I mentioned that we are engaging with OpenSSL to complete a security audit. This is done through OSTIF. That is in progress. I am hoping to have the results public in the September timeframe after any issues have been resolved and the final report is made and everything there. We've also issued a grant to improve support in Rust, to improve support for Rust in the Linux kernel. This will be announced. I don't think the announcement on this went out yet. So this is, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but we did send the money. So memory safety is super important. We want to support that. So we think that this investment will be good there. The money is also going to be used to improve features within Russell's as a cryptographic library in Rust. We have a couple others that we are like nearly signed, and in a similar vein of providing money to critical open source projects to do critical security work that have kind of broad and leveraged impact, including one for identifying vulnerabilities across the 10,000 or 10,000 list and getting those fixed. So we're super optimistic about being able to talk about that one publicly. Hoping next month we'll have some sort of announcement. Each of our alpha projects provides monthly updates, and Raphael from Notice here. I don't know if there's anything that, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you wanted to chat, you always have a welcome spot here to chat about what's going on with Node.
All right. Yeah. Let me change my microphone for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Now it should be better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So a lot of things happening on Node.js, a lot of security fixes. The new permission model arrived with Node.js 20. So we are collecting a lot of feedbacks. Just to provide some context, the permission model basically is a security feature to deny access to resources during the Node.js execution, such as reducing attacks against the file system or worker threads and some Node.js internals. We are reevaluating all the feature currently, having a lot of good discussions around security. However, I can't speak or I can't say more because it's not public yet. So if I say, I will disclose probably a security vulnerability. So that's it.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think what we should probably do for next time is kind of have a round robin. I mean, you're obviously welcome to speak every time, but have a round robin where we invite the other alpha projects to come in on occasion and update and kind of talk with what they're up to. All of the progress reports for them are in the AO GitHub repository. So you can see that stuff there. Let's see, I'm going totally out of order because I have separate notes that are organized differently. So none of this makes sense, but we've launched a website. So alpha-omega.dev, alpha-omega.dev is our new website. We do need to get it linked from openssf.org. The AO page there goes to the old landing page. But we're going to put more stuff there. The progress reports from each of the alpha projects is in our GitHub though, and that just gets updated. I also wanted to maybe pass the baton to Yesenia to talk about the mentorship program, which kicked off at the beginning of the month. Not to put you on the spot, but if you'd like to say anything, you're welcome.
Yeah, happy to be on the spotlight. So yeah, our mentorship program kicked off last week on June 1st. I think the mentees are shy of a day for a full week. We've got them onboarded and working towards their two respective areas, which is the security engineering with me on improving our Omega toolchain. I'll share the link to our software requirement document that we're currently drafting out and working towards this week. So if anybody has any feedback, comments, suggestions, we welcome them in that document. And then we have the security researchers on Jonathan's end, and I'll pass the baton to him to talk a little further on that.
Sure, yeah. So as researchers similarly started same day. And we're working, giving them a crash course in CodeQL. And then we're diving into Open Rewrite, and I'm having them do some work there. So just trying to get them familiar with the general code bases we're going to be working on and working with for the course of the summer. So yeah.
Awesome. What else have we done? Okay, so we released a proof of concept tool called Disclosure Check. Post a link to it in the doc. Disclosure Check is intended to find how to best report a security vulnerability in an open source package privately. So some projects, it's just an email address. Some projects you have to find the author somehow. Some projects get up private vulnerability disclosures or Tidelift or a Jira page or a private mailing list. Doing that once can take, maybe a few minutes. Doing that repeatedly is both soul draining and not a great use of time. That's what automation is for. The tool is the automation for that. So you point it at a NPM or PyPy project or a GitHub repo or whatever, and it gives you a sorted list of hey, here are the high confidence ones, and here's some maybes, and here's some fallbacks if nothing else works. So that is under the OpenSSF. We're trying to figure out what the right maintenance model there is, whether it'll be vulnerability disclosures or us. It looks like it'll probably be us, which is fine. But for folks that find this interesting or useful, feedback is very much appreciated. Current state there is trying to just run it across enough projects that we work out the bugs, and that we're always that a human would agree with what the tool did. Kind of going forward. So that's what that is. And you sent me what I should just. I think that's the.
I have posted the disclosure check link to the GitHub,
Okay.
Mike, so you're good.
Perfect. And the AO website should just, I think that it should just be alpha-omega.dev. I think the other one is the staging site, the one at LF Projects.
Okay.
Yeah. I think those were the big recent updates. Am I missing anything? Got a bunch of things we're working on, this month for next month. In general, just trying to move forward in all places. Have the tooling and the security research move ahead, explore new projects, have meaningful discussions on where we invest and how we measure the value of that investment.
I don't know if we want to give an opportunity for the mentees to go ahead and introduce themselves if they, as much as a little as they're comfortable sharing.
Go for it.
Just to go ahead and give them space. I have on my top left, Aaron. So go ahead, I'll start with you and then we'll pass it along.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Aaron. I am a security researcher mentee, so I'll be working under Jonathan for this summer. Right now, I'm a second-year undergraduate who's studying computer science at UC Irvine. And so this will be more of an introduction into open source and security for me, but I'm really hoping to learn a lot and get to know everybody and become really familiar with this code base, and then hopefully use this opportunity to continue moving on in my career and then hopefully contributing to more open source softwares. And then should I just pass it on to somebody?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'll pass it on to Glenda.
Right. Hi, guys. My name is Glenda. I am a recent graduate from NSU, like some of you know. I am a security engineer under the mentorship of Jasenia. And my focus for this mentorship is going to be on the triage portal. So I'm really excited about it. And like I've said multiple times, but I'll say it again, I'm really excited to just get this kind of unique opportunity to gain experience and learn from you guys. I'll pass it on to Andres.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I too am a recent graduate, but from NJIT. I spent a little time before on the co-op for doing security engineering. So really looking forward to learning more about like open source security and everything that has to come along with that. And I don't see someone new here, so I think that'll be it.
Yes, he wasn't able to make today's call from my understanding, but maybe the next one he'll be able to introduce themselves. Thank you, everyone.
Can I introduce myself?
Please.
I'm not intern. I recently got, my name is Sharan, and I'm currently working in Reddit. Previously, as a security engineer, previously I was working in several Fortune 100 companies. I was recently came to this awesome project. I was, okay, this is my regular work, because I'm also leading a vulnerability management program inside Reddit. So what is the best way to fix them? Then I got to know about this awesome open source project. So that is the reason I joined this meeting, just to understand how it's going on, just to see that what is the project, is there a way I can contribute back to the community? These are the things I'm looking around.
Awesome. Welcome and
Awesome. Welcome.
Great to meet you. Yeah.
Nice meeting you too.
Okay, so that was all I had in terms of updates. Is there anything that folks would like to dive deeper on, or chat, or discuss, or question, or whatever, or announce?
Well, I have some one thing that sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to quickly just thank you for the opportunity to collaborate with Project Alpha. And we on the OSSF side are really excited to be working more closely with everybody and working on making security, turning it into reality. So very excited. Thanks again.
Awesome. Raphael.
So we are discussing on the TSC or having some discussions internally around how we assess report against experimental features. On Node.js, we normally create some features that is experimental. So to use it, you need to pass a flag, experimental something, and basically you opt to use it. And it is not meant production. The idea is to have an experimental feature so you can test, collect feedback, and then we improve the feature around the way. However, we decided last year that we are accepting vulnerabilities reports against experimental features because even though they are experimental, they should be secured first. They should be secured by default. The only discussion we are having is basically the assessment, the severity against that report should be the same as a regular feature. For instance, when we use the CVSS calculator to set if a vulnerability is critical, high, medium, or low. And considering that they are experimental and the user opts to use it, we are not entirely sure if they should be assessed in the same way as a regular feature. So that's, I think, would be a great discussion here. My personal opinion is that in most of the case, they should, but there are some, what we are trying to prevent is that, okay, let's say that we released an experimental feature and then we received a bunch of reports on that. And all of them, if we use the CVSS calculator, will be tagged as high. However, if we perform a security release with all the features with tagged as high, it will tell to the users, oh, Node.js 20.1, for instance, is totally unsecure. You should upgrade it now. But that's not the case. It's just an experimental feature. You opt to use it. In 99% of the case, you are not affected by that, you know? What do you guys think about it?
That's a good one. I feel sad that I haven't kind of come across that before and have like a opinion already made. I'm looking at the CVSS like calculator like mentions. My gut feel is that like there should be something there that says, is this a out of the box like feature, or is it something that has to be opted into? Is it some like
well, there are two options. One is the user interaction. Technically, if you tag it, or if you need to use this option, is a required user interaction, and the complexity normally goes a bit high, but it doesn't decrease the score a lot. You know, like most of the reports will be tagged as high.
So generally, CVSS code doesn't talk about whether the feature was experimental or something like that. They mainly talk about like, you know, sorry, I don't know your name, but like, you know, they mainly talk about the user interaction, how much privilege is required, all those things. And like, you know, if you see a lot of companies, people generally don't use CVSS. Like, you know, for example, if you're running some vulnerability management system or something like that, they won't don't depend upon CVSS code. Because CVSS core never thinks about like, you know, exploitability. What is the criticality of those assets? So like, you know, I worked in several organizations previously, only based upon CVSS core never works out because you have thousands of critical, so nobody's go. That is the reason people are actually adding different signals into CVSS core and driving their own reality.
We do it as well. I mean, there are some cases that we do use the CVSS, but there are some the other cases like you said that doesn't fit, and we assess it manually. But even assessing it manually, it's difficult to categorize severity as critical or high or medium. And considering that this is experimental, we have a good debate, at least internally, if it should be categorized in the same role as a regular feature.
Yeah, regarding that experimental, I never used experimental ones, but my question is that whether the experimental feature is in alpha, which is about to release in like, you know, 2
We don't
months,
have it.
like that?
On Node.js, we don't have a beta or alpha. It's either
Oh.
experimental or
Okay.
it's stable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
A feature to be released as experimental,
Okay.
it should be kind of stable. Like we don't release beta or alpha versions of a feature.
Mhm. Okay, so as per my general experience, like previously I worked in a dev, then I moved into security. So generally, unless some like new feature is like releasing and it contains some important release, so currently my organization was not using, then only people actually use it, because nowadays every software development is happening based upon Docker files, right? So it's very hard that people actually create these either AWS Lambda, otherwise some other Docker based upon some experimental like an image. But I won't 100% rule out, but most of the time, people actually use these Docker images that are actually built upon the existing released images, not based upon experimental image. That is my 2 cents to add to that discussion. But I think this is a good discussion. I think we should maybe ask few several users, just asking those questions.
from the Node documentation on what experimental means, it
what to expect, right?
Yeah, so as a user, I think after reading this, like I expect it not to be like it's going to change. It's not subject to SEMVer. It might just not work well on my system, but I wouldn't read this to mean, if you ask me like, should these things be just as secure as everything else? I think I would say yes. So that leads me to say that it should follow the same flow as stable releases, at least, or clarify that experimental has a different security bar than
that works well when the feature is not a security feature. For instance, if we release the test runner, or when it was experimental, if you find a bug there, or if you find a vulnerability, that can be assessed in the same flow as a regular feature. However, when you release a security feature, any bug will be a vulnerability eventually. And that will be way critical to assess all those as a high, Anyway, that's just to keep in mind. I mean, if you have any thoughts on that, any other thoughts, if you feel free to ping me on Twitter or LinkedIn. Doesn't matter.
I like Sharon's suggestion of like ask the users. Maybe putting it out there and saying like, community, what do you think? Like, if we go this route, here's the pros and cons. If we go this route, here's the pros and cons. And see if like the community is like all of it. Like if it's split, then you don't really learn anything. But if it's
well, we try it for the fetch. Do you know fetch? We tried. Oh, do you want fetch? We asked it to the community. They said yes, 80% yes. And then we released fetch. And then 90% told, oh, we don't need fetch. Or fetch is not working well. I don't like fetch, but this size specification,
Oh.
So yeah, that's hard.
Like, what is the Node.js community was saying there? Like, are they willing to add some kind of a star mark or disclaimer saying that this experimental can have security bugs, be careful, or something like that? What is the thought process around from the Node.js community?
What do you mean from to receive feedbacks from the community?
Regarding the security vulnerabilities or something like that.
Okay, the security, we don't have a server for that. We have the working group called the Node.js Security Working Group. So we meet every 2 weeks. And we also have a security working group repository. So people normally create a few issues, ask questions, and if want to report a vulnerability, they go to the hacker one. But yeah, we don't find I mean, it's hard to ask those questions because technically the security data adoption shouldn't be derived by the community. It should be a rule, like every project should do it. It's not flexible. I mean, at least in the security point of view, everything should be secured by default. So, but to receive feedback is just through the meetings and repository.
Okay.
Other thoughts, topics?
So let me throw in something. Jonathan, you were saying something, or? Yeah, okay. We have been discussing, like Michael, you and I, we've been discussing about that there'll be like several groups or like people in the world, they'll be like embarking on separate campaigns on like doing this kind of like vulnerability discovery, mitigating the vulnerability and so on. So have a central location, like a GitHub location where we can coordinate these efforts and keep some specifically like so that we do not like step over each other or are at least generally aware of each other so that we can share knowledge and so on. So we have been looking into this and like we have a general idea or a scaffold that I'd like to propose. So you were mentioning earlier that the share screen is not working. Is that working?
It was just for me, Zoom.
Okay.
Zoom
So I
is-
can share my screen. So
Please.
yeah, maybe. Okay. So here is the basic idea. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. So keeping track of the OSS bug fixing campaigns. The goal is that we expect that there will be multiple campaigns and we need to ensure that the efforts are aware of each other. Also, like in future, it might be interesting for some stakeholders to look at the history of success, failure, what has happened in these campaigns and so on. So the idea is to like create a GitHub repository to store the data. And so right now we have a proposed layout. It's very rudimentary. It could be just a throwaway, but I mean, I'm just bringing it in so that we can start discussing along that line. So it's basically data stored in plain text and JSON. At the top level of that GitHub repo, we'll have like a metadata directory where we'll have some metadata, and then we'll have different programming languages, Java, Python, and JavaScript, each of them harboring the projects that are written in primarily in that language, and then like what are the results of that. And then the metadata is just like it will define items that then will be reused in other places. So some of the sample metadata would be information about organizations, like the different organizations that are engaging in such campaigns. It could be about bug categories, the different kinds of bugs that, so we can have like a central description of that so that at least the categories can be shared or like between different campaigns. It's not arbitrary. We can make correlations about that. There's also the reporting process. Like there are these steps that we're also figuring out in real time now at the vulnerability autofix working group and so on. So we can take the different steps from there and use that as part of like define them so that we can reuse them. Then under each of the languages, we'll have the projects that are listed in alphabetical order. A project in the list means that the project has been scanned at least once and some bugs may have been reported. Even if no bugs were reported, the project will still be there. A project not listed means, so if somebody comes in and looks up in this directory and sees that there's no project, that means that nobody has done a work on that particular project, so they can create their own entries and so on. So that's kind of the idea. Under the project, there is an info where we store the basic info, like where this project is hosted, like the URL or like what is the ranking of that project, things like that. The history would be for that particular project, when are the different scans, etc. happen. And then the reports would be what kind of outcome were coming out of that particular scan, what sort of things were reported, what sort of things were fixed, and so on. So that's what there. And the ongoing, I was thinking like it can be like a simple like log or .log file or something like that, where the presence of like if somebody comes in directory and sees that there's an ongoing, that means that somebody else is working on this or scanning this particular project, so they can look this up and then can code it. And it can be done in other ways, but this is where it stands right now. So with that structure in mind, so whenever somebody is starting a new campaign, so this is a proposed workflow for a campaign manager who's launching a future campaign. So he can come to this, he or she can come to this and check if the project is project under review is listed under the dominant language folder. So if it's a Java project, look into the Java folder and so on. If the project is not present, then they can submit a pull request to create the project. So express intent that they are scanning this thing and so that it is registered here. If there is already the project present, they will check like whether if someone else is working on the project. Then they can create pull request to create new ongoing file if somebody has not done anything on that or is not doing anything on that, or if there's somebody else working on that, they can add to that. And when the scan is done, the data is ready, then the submit pull request to add information to the JSON files under the project directory, which is the history and the reports to like state the results. And when done, like submit pull request to remove the information from ongoing or remove. So at that point, they'll say like, okay, I'm done. So I'm moving away or doing something else. And so that's how, as in a simplistic manner, that's how like right now we're thinking that the data can be kept. And this is obviously open for discussion. This is just the first idea. And later we can create like scripts or APIs to input the data there, to extract the data, track different stuff like an organization scan campaigns, a particular campaign's track record, or a project scan or a project specific, like what has been scanned and which bugs have been discovered there. So we have created a sample. So this is called OSS bug fixing campaigns. It's just like again a sample repository that is showing this idea, and that's about it. I mean, I'll share this link. I'll be happy to, like, is this a good idea, bad idea, do it different way? Happy to take feedback. So I'll say
Awesome.
And let's go to the channel. Yes.
I think you may just need to invite us or invite folks because it's a private repo. But I definitely like the idea of it, that to know that other groups are working on a thing, especially when it's a single thing. So if I'm about to embark on a security audit of zlib, knowing that someone at NCC group has been working on it for 2 weeks or a month or looked at it 3 months ago and kind of whatever, like those are all interesting things to me. I don't know if, I mean, I guess it probably provides the same value for automation if I'm going to scan these 500 projects, knowing that 200 of them were already in your scan, somebody else's scan, and is kind of within the workflow. I think makes sense. I wouldn't want to modify like a lot of JSON files by hand. So having scripts to kind of automate that, I think would be super useful. I guess the other thing I'm thinking is like, would a shared Google spreadsheet be just the same and a lot simpler?
Because people can arbitrarily edit there without like pull request. And
yeah, that makes sense.
I also thought of that, but then the thing is, I mean, obviously, I mean that's much simpler. But then like polluting, although like, yeah, I mean, if it's a public repository, you need to manage like whether things can be polluted or not. But at the same time, like
Yeah.
there's always ways to revert that.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it depends. Like if it's a closed universe of known security researchers and firm, like Google Docs has, you know, history. So like if anybody accidentally like deletes a bunch of stuff, like you can, you know, you don't really lose it. But if it's something where you expect newcomers to show up and say, hey, I'm going to do a thing and here it is, like having a global edit, you know, link on a spreadsheet might just
Do the same.
it might just inevitably decay into chaos. So maybe this is the right way to do it.
Yeah, this does require some handholding, as in the pull request management. You can, like, if let's say Jonathan comes with like 10,000 entries, all of them automatic, and then like 10,000 pull requests are being generated, then we can fight fire with fire, as in like also create automated scripts to clear those 10,000 pull requests, which are coming from trusted sources or something like that. But yeah, I mean, definitely, like that's a like the future manageability, like how lower the threshold so that this can be managed and yet be useful.
Right.
The thing about, because with the Google Doc or an Excel sheet in particular, if there's like a one-line entry or one line item per row, like, so everything is like a one row in the table, that makes a lot of sense. But here, like at the end of the, or at the bottom of the tree where the report is, that's, or the scan is, that just is ever expanding. So, and the thousands of projects do we have? Do we create like 1,000 tabs? Then it becomes unmanageable. If you create
no, you're right.
thousands of that, those were the things that we discussed or thought about, and then kind of opted out of that. But I mean, yeah, we can also start with that, something similar to that.
Yeah, I'm also thinking maybe just for instead of some of the JSON, just markdown tables might be kind of more readable, especially if it's a, like, you know, OpenSSF is doing zlib, you know, we'll hold a lock for 30 days or 60 days or something on it, something like that. I like the concept though. What do other folks think?
I like the concept. It's definitely going to be one of the challenges, is determining who's running a campaign and where they're at. And if we're, you know, we want to reduce code as much as we want to reduce duplicate campaigns.
Yeah.
So I think I personally don't like spreadsheets. So I think this at least moves a little forward towards a better automation until we can get a system.
Jonathan, does this seem like something that would fit with your workflow or your envisioned workflow?
Sorry, I was checked out because I had something else going on. Just a high level view. What was the? Sorry, I know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you in a spot. There's this is a repository of files and metadata about who is doing campaigns against what projects, so that if you are scanning 500 projects and Manoir is scanning 500 projects, you don't wait. One of you doesn't waste your time by rescanning the thing that the other party just scanned. It says essentially what to do distributed. I don't want to say work tracking, but it's kind of work tracking for security, audit, and analysis campaigns.
So yes, I see the value here. The thing that the thing that's crossing my mind here is there might be different technology at play that's scanning for different things, or has a higher false positive rate, lower false positive rate on the same sort of like repositories. And so creating an exclusion zone over a scope of repositories doesn't necessarily seem like it's.
So we're not tracking, or the plan is to not track the false positive, etc. It's only to go beyond, like once something is reported, that's when what we are expecting, that there is, like these bugs have been reported in either one of the ways, like PMPVR or public or through a pull like public pull request or a issue of some sort. So it starts from there. Before that, there is some scan that happens. That's fine, but whether there's, so whatever happens before triage is something that we are excluding. That's too much on and unnecessary data for that matter.
Okay, I misunderstood. So wait. Okay, so Monwar, so you guys scan some projects, you find some bugs, you report them. As you report them, you create metadata here so that when Jonathan scans the same project and finds similar bugs, he does not report them.
Yes.
So the problem is, how do you, so these are bugs that by definition haven't been fixed yet. Because if they were fixed, then Jonathan wouldn't have found them. How do you tell Jonathan that you've reported some, I don't know, zip slip vulnerabilities in Project Foo, without telling everybody else that there are unfixed zip slip vulnerabilities in Project Foo?
Yeah, so the plan is that we don't, so let's actually give an example maybe. So here is in Java, there's a particular, and here's the report. I don't know. Oh, okay, so it does not have. So it's one of our guys who was doing this. So it's not populated. Anyway, so the bottom line is, so there is a fixed column, and I was anticipating that only when we go to a particular threshold would things be reported here. So if it is like a public pull request, then there is no problem reporting it here. Or if it is fixed, then that information comes here. But before, let's say a PMPVR has been created, at that particular point, we are not we are not supposed to put the or report it here. It only becomes like part of this public information when it has become public information by itself.
Got
by
it.
definition.
So in that case, I would say this feels a lot like the security reviews repo, where, for Java Baritone, a review would say, tool, this campaign was run against things, we found some vulnerabilities, reported them, and they're either public in a PR or fixed.
Okay.
Trying to think if there's.
I'm not aware of that repo, so it'll be good to actually, go there and find about that. Maybe there's no need to push this thing if there's something already.
Yeah, I'll post the link to the repo here.
So here the reviews are where.
Yes, in review, I posted a deeper link. So if you go to Omega NPM in there and click any of those, and then that markdown file. So this is one that we did last year where we automated the creation of the security review.
Yeah, and okay, I'll look into this.
Okay.
Something. Yeah, in a markdown way and so on. So if there's this is already there and with data in it.
Yeah, if you go back to the markdown and you view source, there's hidden metadata in there that it's not. I mean, it's the table up top, but like that's a YAML structured Mabon thing. So
okay.
Yeah. So I feel like once there's something that's like reportable to the public, this is probably the right vehicle for it. If it's, I do think that there's actually like a during analysis coordination that I
Right.
think would be interesting, because I mean, but maybe maybe it's not so big of a problem that we need to solve it, but like, so I apologize. I thought that's where this had started.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we haven't thought of that use case, but I mean, yeah, that could be. Yeah, I'll speak with Jonathan separately
Yeah.
regarding this. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course. Is there anything else anyone would like to talk about?
I would like to talk about maybe Omega as a new member. I'm just trying to understand, like, I read regarding Alpha and Omega thing. So Omega, like, it will run several tools, right? It is also have some kind of a assertion framework.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to understand what is the end goal of that? Like, are you planning to publish some metrics regarding these packages, or like, how can like, a normal developer or a
Yeah.
security engineer from a company can get a benefit of this particular Omega framework?
So I would say a couple different ways. So there's different target audiences for these things. Overall, the purpose of Omega is to improve the security quality of the 10,000 most. So as that security quality gets better and better, everybody benefits without having to do anything. They will simply see presumably fewer CVEs or CVE-ish things, in the package that they use, and they can have higher confidence and all that stuff. The Omega tool chain, the Docker container, the analyzer, can of course be used by anyone to analyze packages and get the results. They still need to triage it, which is the whole reason for the triage portal, and a lot of the work that we're doing now is to make that more efficient for us. And then the open question is, and for who else? Because these are by definition 0 days or potential 0 days. And I think it wouldn't be great for us to just make the whole thing public, but to have some sort of an ability to expand out beyond just the Omega team, to be triaging and analyzing and doing work on the results of the stuff. The assertion framework is intended to be used by organizations. And the idea there would be that there are certain types of vulnerabilities or policies or practices or metadata or whatever that an organization may want to just block or flag on or look at, whatever. So if your organization like really trusts CodeQL SQL injection rule set, then you could say, for all of my projects, I want to see affirmative evidence that CodeQL was run and that it didn't find SQL injection in any of this list of projects. So that's kind of the vision for where I think the assurance assertions could play with. There's obviously if that's like the vertical, there's the horizontal side, which is like, what are the most prevalent vulnerabilities out there? And like, oh my gosh, there's like so much SQL injection in this ecosystem. Like, should we target that through other parts of AO? So there is kind of a threat intelligence, but there's an intelligence aspect that we want to kind of feed back. Obviously, we need to run this across like lots and lots of projects in order to get that. That's kind of.
So thank you for explaining that. So how this assertion framework, run, what is the frequency? Because I know it was still in the work in the progress. So for example, is the community is planning to create some kind of an API around that? For example, if I want to, yeah, I actually saw that side. So when I want to click on that, are
Yeah.
you planning to expand different rule set? I saw that, licensing also, because that is one of the very important for certain companies, because what kind of licenses are there. So, so it was actually planning to expose an API. So anybody can use that API to run these transitive dependencies or direct dependencies, try to see that what is their scanning capability, plus what is the licensing one, right? That is the assertion framework, right?
Right.
If I understand you correct. Okay.
Yes. So I mean, so technically there's an API to get the data out of the assertion framework front end. So you've probably seen that. As a proof of concept, we are not currently rescanning projects on a rolling basis. We know we absolutely need to. There's going to be a trade-off between how many scans of left pad do you need when you haven't finished everything once, and can we get through 10,000 or 100,000 projects in a week? And at some point the compute cost of that becomes non-trivial. The set of tools that we use is the Omega Analyzer framework. So everything that's included in there is run. And then I believe we have reproducibility, which we're now calling something else, David, semantic equivalency.
Semantic equivalence, yes, or equivalency, yeah.
So does the package and the source, are they at all related to, how closely are they related to each other? And I think scorecard as well. I think we run scorecard as well. And obviously we can expand that stuff out. So licensing comes through scorecard, actively maintained comes through scorecard, SQL injection comes through CodeQL and SemGrep and other things like that.
Yeah, and if I can inject real quick, because that term is new. Originally, they were using the term reproducible build, but the problem with that is that reproducible build has a very specific meaning, bit for bit equal, and if the tool finds that, it can hooray, and we can report that, but it also checks for minor variations that usually if you assume the source code's okay. You're just wanting to know if the build was subverted. Changes like date timestamps don't matter.
Right.
They're very, very low risk. And so they're looking not for just, bit for bit equivalency is the gold standard. But if you can't get bit for bit, what can you tell me that estimates risk? And so that's where this semantic equivalence. Okay, it's not exactly, but it will, we have reason to believe it will have exactly the same effect when run.
So during that scan, for example, some analyzer, Omega Analyzer finds some issues, and the assertion framework is using that. So are we doing any kind of a validation around that? Because as a lot of these SemGrep and all those tools, for example, Analyzer is running with many rules, right? So obviously it will produce false positives. That is one of my main concern.
Yes, so that is exactly the challenge. Just because a tool says it finds something does not mean that it's a real vulnerability or anything like that. So the purpose of the assertion framework is no humans in the loop from end to end. So it's the only way that it can scale and run every week and things like that. But the way that the overall architecture will work is, a scan is made, the results are sent to the assurance assertions, and policies run against them. The results are also sent to the triage portal, depending on the risk of the project and the type of the vulnerability and just everything else. They'll be triaged there. Now I don't think we've thought very hard about this, but there needs to be first of all, a feedback loop within the triage portal to minimize false positives.
Yes.
And for things like that, we'll like you'd be able to say this rule is just garbage, so turn off the rule and never show it to me again. But we need to be able to express the fact that I looked at left pad in the portal, and I've, as a security expert, I believe that all of the findings are uninteresting, false positive, whatever. And I should be able to stamp an assertion and create an assertion with my assertion of that, send that to the assurance assertion site, and then have that kind of override what you see. So, yesterday left pad had all sorts of issues. Today it's totally clean because you trust me to make manual assertions on that. So there's like a lot of like hand waving here on like how this will actually work in practice and at scale, but that's, I think, the relationship between the two. Obviously, if the tool itself is just not working well, or there's a rule that, like, for instance, there's a rule in SEMGRA that has like super high false positive rate. We're just going to turn it off in the tool chain because it provides almost no value, and just minimizing noise is of value. So we're probably just going to do that. But for rules that are more contextual, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, we'll do that in Triage Portal on a per project basis.
I know, we actually reached the limit, but the follow-up question is that, so when the analyzer find the bugs and we sent it to some triage thing, so how many, obviously it's required some effort to triaging them. And do you have enough community support to triage them? And second question is that obviously there are some companies who is actually doing that work too, because obviously they're actually running that SEMGRAPH or Snyk or whatever the tool. So are you willing to maybe do something open source, or maybe some company want to help, because they already reviewed those particular things, and maybe they want to provide those meanings so that the burden of the the triaging team who is actually analyzing the framework, are you planning to involve some community there?
We've had some of those discussions. I'm totally open to the idea of this being a having, let's say, trusted security experts, not literally part of the core Omega team doing some work. We do need to think about what that actually looks like. But yes, I've had some conversations with a couple of those organizations to see what makes sense. It hasn't solidified to the point that we have a plan yet. I think we need to get the tool up and running and useful and iterated upon a little bit. But then yeah, I think that community input absolutely essential here. We are over time. Thank you for the awesome conversation, everyone. I'll see everybody again in a month, but check us out on Slack. Continue the conversation there. Thanks all.